At 22:17 local time, the air over the Persian Gulf didn't just feel heavy, it felt electric. 3 U.S. Air Force B-1B Lancers, the bones of the fleet, were screaming north toward Karg Island at high subsonic speeds. For 2 weeks, the coalition had been systematically dismantling Iran's military infrastructure, turning billion-dollar hardware into smoldering scrap metal. But Karg was different. Karg was the golden goose. It handles 90% of Iran's crude exports. The orders from the top were surgical and absolute. Erase the military footprint, but do not, under any circumstances, touch the oil. It was a mission that required the precision of a scalpel in a world made of sledgehammers. The approach had been routine, almost boring, right up until it wasn't. Inside the lead B-1, call sign Packer 61, the weapons officer felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cockpit's AC. His bomb solutions, which had been rock solid for an hour, began to crawl. On his display, the predicted impact points were drifting: 1 meter, 3 meters, 7. This wasn't a glitch, it was a ghost, an Iranian GPS jammer, hidden somewhere in the salt-crusted rocks of the island, had finally found them. Now, in most combat zones, a 12-meter drift is a rounding error. You're still hitting the building. But on Karg Island, 12 meters is the difference between a successful strike and a global economic apocalypse. 12 meters puts a 500-pound J-dam through the wall of a crude oil storage tank instead of the cruise missile bunker tucked right next to it. The weapons officer toggled his electronic warfare suite. The signal was poisoned. Every satellite-guided weapon in their bays was now effectively blind, screaming toward a target they could no longer see clearly. With 9 minutes to the release point, the strike lead made the only call he could: push the Black Aces. South of the formation, 2 FA-18 Super Hornets from VFA 41, the Black Aces, flipped their master arms to hot. Their job was simple but suicidal: find the source of that jammer and kill it before the heavy hitters arrived. The lead Hornet rolled in, releasing a GBU-39 small-diameter bomb. It was a surgical 250-pound masterpiece of engineering, and it missed by 15 meters. The jammer was literally degrading the very weapon sent to destroy it. It was a digital shield, a circular logic of defense. You can't hit me because I'm making you miss. The Hornet pilot didn't have time to appreciate the irony. He dove. Descending through 12,000 feet, he bypassed the GPS entirely, switching to his targeting pod to paint the building with a laser. A direct hit. The structure folded like a house of cards, but the jamming signal only dropped by half. The source wasn't in the building, it was underneath it, buried in a hardened concrete basement that a light bomb couldn't tickle. They needed a bunker buster, and they didn't have one. Meanwhile, the situation in the air was deteriorating. The defensive systems officer's voice cut through the comms with a jagged edge. Search radar bearing 345. PRF matches Kavos. They see us. The Kavos is the eyes of the MRSAD, Iran's domestically produced surface-to-air missile system. It's a Frankenstein's monster of tech, half original American Hawk parts from the 70s, half reverse-engineered garage components built under decades of sanctions. It wasn't as fancy as a Russian S-300, but it threw Shalom-Che missiles at Mach 3, and right now it was staring directly at 3 B-1Bs. A B-1 is a lot of things, but stealthy isn't high on the list when it's flying at 18,000 feet. With 3 square meters of radar cross-section, those 3 Lancers looked like a fleet of minivans with their high beams on. Seconds later, the Hadi fire control radar began illuminating them. The Iranians weren't just watching anymore, they were aiming. 40 miles to the west, an EA-18G Growler, the electronic bully of the sky, tried to intervene. Its jammer pods flooded the MRSAD's frequency with enough digital noise to turn their screens into static. It was like trying to read a license plate while someone power washes your windshield. But the Iranian commander was a veteran. He didn't panic. He reached for his backup, the electro-optical tracker. You can't jam a radar, but you can jam a camera.
Against the cold, clear Persian Gulf sky, the 4 General Electric F101 engines of the B-1s glowed like lit cigarettes in a dark parking lot. The MRSAD commander didn't need radio waves anymore. He just needed to look up. Inside Packer 61, the tension was reaching a breaking point. The weapons officer checked his Link 16 display, the digital map that shows where every friendly plane is. The Super Hornets were supposed to be in their designated corridor, 2 miles south, but the display was lagging. In a strike this compressed, 12 seconds of lag is a lifetime. "Cleared hot, releasing," he called. 12 500-pound bombs dropped from the rotary launchers, arcing through the sky. 3 seconds later, the map updated. The 2 Super Hornets weren't south. They had drifted north, orbiting directly under the falling bombs while they tried to finish off that stubborn jammer. "Break south! Friendlies in the fall line! Break south now!" The Hornet pilot didn't even wait to process the words. He felt the raw panic in the controller's voice and yanked the stick into a 6G turn. 4 seconds later, 12 half-ton bombs whistled through the exact patch of air the Hornets had just occupied. The lead pilot later said he felt the pressure change through his canopy as the steel passed him by. 4 seconds between a routine mission and a blue-on-blue catastrophe that would have cost $150 million and 4 lives. The strike was falling apart at the seams. The Hornets were scattered, the suppression was gone, and one Iranian engineer in a basement had managed to paralyze the most advanced air force on the earth. The B-1 weapons officer reached for his last get-out-of-jail-free card, the JSAM, a 2,200-pound cruise missile designed to do the impossible. He programmed 2 aim points, the launcher and the jammer's real location, and squeezed the trigger. The JSAM dropped, its turbojet engine ignited, and it vanished toward the waves. It didn't use GPS, it didn't emit a signal. It skimmed just 50 feet over the water, hugging the Gulf the way a submarine hugs a thermal layer. It threaded the needle between Iranian coastal sensors, silent and invisible. 12 kilometers out, its infrared eye snapped open. The MRSAD commander, still staring at the sky for bombers, never saw the missile coming from behind his battery at wave-top height. The impact was cataclysmic. The JSAM's warhead punched through the launcher, and 9 Shalamche missiles erupted in a chain reaction of secondary explosions that lit up the northern slope like a stadium. American-designed tech, rebuilt by Iran, destroyed by the people who designed the original. Your tax dollars coming full circle in a ball of fire. But the fire was moving. 9 missiles worth of solid rocket propellant were now burning like liquid lava, flowing downhill toward the containment berm of Crude Storage Cluster 4. Those berms were built for slow pooling oil spills, not for a chemical fire that burns hotter than a forge. If that propellant overtopped the wall, 30 million barrels of crude would ignite. The entire reason for the surgical strike would vanish in a mushroom cloud of black smoke that would be seen from space. And the bombers were still coming. Packer 62 rolled in at 22:29 local time. Below them, the Samavat anti-aircraft batteries, twin-barrel 35mm monsters, opened up. These weren't random shots. Thanks to the final targeting handoff from the now destroyed MRSAD battery, the gunners knew exactly where to fire. They weren't aiming at the planes, they were firing predicted trajectories. The B-1 had to hold a perfectly straight line. Any twick, any evasive maneuver, and the bomb computer would fail to release the 12 separate JDAMs. It was the ultimate test of nerves. 18 seconds of flying level, while 1,100 rounds of shrapnel per minute bracketed your cockpit. Tracers climbed past the windows like slow-motion fireworks, the concussion of near misses rattling the airframe so hard that the pilot's teeth ached. Finally, the last bomb cleared. Away! The pilot broke left so hard the G-force pinned the crew into their seats. Below, the island was a patchwork of fire and chaos. The military headquarters was gone. The communications relay was a crater. And that propellant fire, it reached the base of the concrete containment wall and stopped. The concrete held. 30 million barrels of crude sat untouched, while the infrastructure designed to protect them and the missiles meant to close the Gulf lay in ruins. As the B-1s turned for the long flight home, the USS Tripoli was already visible on the horizon, 2,200 Marines ready to finish the job. The bone had done its work. The prize was safe, but the cost of keeping it was a scar on the Persian Gulf that wouldn't heal for a generation.